Hey everybody, I'm going to wait just a second here and see if I can get Ben Brown on with me. We're going to be discussing creativity in massage session. So, how to be creative in your massage and your body work. I don't think it's going to talk as much about marketing, but we'll see. This is the first conversation I've had with Ben. It's been really great to kind of get to know him in the process of getting ready for this talk. He's a really great educator and massage therapist in New York. It sounds like he was in the city and now he's moving a little bit further north into upstate New York. But I'm really excited to talk with him. Really great educator. And Ben, I'm going to see if I can add you on my end first. We're going to see if I can type this in. And there we go. Hey James, how you doing? Hey Deidre. So Ben, see if you got that invite. There we go. And let's see if it goes through. If it does, it'll be the quickest edition I think I've had in a while. Yes, it worked.
We're working.
I was wondering, everybody always has like some technical difficulties coming on camera with me, so yours is the fastest in a while.
Sweet. I was definitely preparing and playing a little bit. The only thing is I just want to make sure the camera's sort of set, so fussing a little bit here.
Sure.
Yeah,
Totally normal.
Can you hear me?
So listen, first things first, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really looked forward to having a conversation with you live to be able to discuss things that were of interest to both of us. I really admire the content that I see you putting out on Instagram and also on Facebook. You have a really great, professional presence, and I admire you. So there.
Well, thank you very much. It's a lot of praise there, and I totally appreciate it. The other thing, though, I have to say the same thing. I've been following you for probably now about a year, maybe almost 2 years, and I found you everybody else through Psychic Truth, and then eventually landed up in your group, Massage Entrepreneurs, and you were kind of like the person who was doing the things that I wanted to be doing. So I've been studying you and learning. So it's nice to get a little to hear that. So it's appreciated.
Well, good. Yeah. Cool. Hopefully that sort of inspiration is something that people pick up. Sometimes it's like I'm not trying to get them to do what I do exactly. I'm trying to get them to harness themselves and create their own practices.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think honestly, that's the big thing that is that people sometimes lose, and I think that's why it's really important we're talking about creativity, because I think in talking about or having discussions around this, it's not about being me and it's not about being Robert. Really about being more of you. The more that people are authentic in themselves, really opens up a lot of doorways, a lot of things that you feel are sort of closed to you. And, it's a great opportunity for people to understand that, what we're talking about, or what we will be talking about tonight, really is about how to be more of you, so that you can attract the people who are looking for you, build a better practice, build a better business, that you're just more confident in yourself. I think that that's really a huge component of where people feel kind of lost, is because you're not really tapping into your own creativity, your own inspiration. And in missing that, then everything else feels like you're kind of floundering. You're like trying to grasp straws, where really, if you're just really being authentic to who you are, it all comes to you, or it comes to you as things open up for you. So,
so much of it when it comes to connection with clients, creativity, and I know we're talking about in session, but when it comes to the technology that we have, being able to do a Facebook Live like this, it's a classic example to me of using a similar technology in a completely different way. Therapists can have conversations with clients, potential clients, network, do interviews. They can use the technology in completely different ways. Your Instagram probably has a very different flavor than mine.
Oh, absolutely. Totally.
But we're using the same platforms.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting that, if we'll drop back to Instagram for a quick second. For instance, like, I've been talking to people, other massage therapists, about how to use their Instagram, how to grow their following. We're actually doing a hashtag campaign called These Hands Create, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but it really, the whole essence of that is, how do you tell your story? How do you get your message out and deliver who you are to attract the people that are looking for you, or to attract the people that you want to work with? And yeah, we have a totally different feed, although we're both body workers, but we have a totally different feed. I mean, I never really post food images, which is
Tons of food.
yeah, I know. You're always cooking something, and there it is, and it's like, that's just not what I do. I mean, I cook, but I don't, just not the way I choose to tell my story. So it's great. But the one thing that you just mentioned ago that I think is really important to me, I actually don't think that there's a real barrier between technology, between other forms of study, other forms of communication. Actually, I think that's one of the things that I think is really important, is that people compartmentalize. They sort of put everything in such a box that they discount all the things and all the resources that are available to them. That it's like, I went to massage school and I learned this technique, so this is what I do. And not that, like, oh, I played football in high school and I took a ballet class because they wanted me to have better moves on the field, and how do I bring that into my massage practice? Or I'm a writer and I'm really creative, and I am constantly coming up with imagery. How do I take that imagery that helps me craft a story and use that imagery when I'm working? How do I look at the body and dissect the information of what I'm getting there, and even tell myself a story that helps me get through the body to accomplish things? I really feel like the mind is a huge portion of what we do as body workers. I mean, that's my
what is a huge portion? I missed that last piece. What was it?
The mind. The mind.
The mind. Okay, yeah.
Our intention, our intuition, our heart. I think that's a huge portion of any success or any failure you have as a body worker.
So your intention and what you're trying to do affects the outcome.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think I do. I mean, I feel that there's, we also often talk about mind, body, spirit, and mindfulness. And I think that is a huge portion of the success and failure of body work. You were talking, that's why I was so excited when you were talking to Tim Norton, I believe.
Yeah. Tim Norton. Yeah.
Yeah. The other day. And he was really talking about, pain and interpretation and nerves. And it's like, to me, that's not that far off from the mind and how we receive information and what we do with that, or how we translate it, or how we talk ourselves out of sickness or even into sickness. I'm
a big fan and proponent of pain science in the massage community, and having good discussions about research and best practices. I think that's a generally good thing for the industry. But when I talk to students, I have a tendency to not fixate, but focus on anatomy, focus on physiology, focus on what we can get a handle on. And then 10 minutes later, I start talking about essentially the heart chakra and something about posture, and the students are like, whoa, wait, I thought you were like focusing on pain science. And I'm like, no, not, not like heart chakra from a dissect someone standpoint. I'm talking about it as a myth, as a metaphor, as a symbol, as Joseph Campbell. Right. But to me, it's part of a spectrum. And the challenge has been, I'm assuming, based on the conversations I've had with you, mentally you can grasp that full spectrum.
No,
and that's what's difficult to convey if people don't see that.
Right. And I think that's an issue. And I think some of that comes from schooling. Some of it comes from experience. And I think some of it comes from the fact that we live in a world where we try to segment so many things and trying to sort of define it. And I don't think everything needs a hard and steadfast definition. One of the reasons why I'm in your program, which I'm sure is going to come up at some point, that you have the subscription program, is because I'm always looking to see what else I can learn, right? I'm always looking to see what I can bring into my practice. Doesn't mean I'm going to do exactly what someone teaches me, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and find the points that are going to actually help me work, and then be able to translate that work into my own creation and make it better. That's what I'm always looking for.
Yeah, something
Those bobbleheads.
something different, something outside the box. And I have a challenge, just like anybody. You kind of get into a rut, and having an additional, I don't know what it can be, and I don't want to tell body workers what to do, but when we talk about creativity, I think it's good for body workers to have some sort of movement-based discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's yoga, dance, martial arts, ice skating, rollerblading, some movement-based discipline that has them use their body. I think it's very instructive when it's not just body work. It's not just massage.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're touching on there is actually the importance of actually moving ourselves. It's like the more that you move your body, the more you're in tune with how bodies work. I think that that's a big portion of why you hear people having problems in terms of their sessions or not connecting with their guests or their clients, is that they actually don't move the body. They literally work one side flat and the other side flat, and that's it. And we're
the
very
prone supine tyranny.
Yeah, and we're three-dimensional beings. Even if you're going to work just prone, all those muscles still have a three-dimensionality to them that requires you to get underneath them. Once you do that, your work changes. Once you start to address the muscle in a full capacity of what it can do, how it moves, how it rotates through space, where it actually will take that body, you end up taking that person through a journey in their own body, and at the same time you're also making changes in there. But it does require that you actually really move and manipulate the body. And that's one of the things that I personally, when I'm working with other therapists or when I'm receiving work, that's what I'm always hoping to either convey or experience, that real connection of tissue, really like working through things.
As a body worker, I'm very fix-it oriented. Got to fix them. I have a tendency to go that way. And at the same time, what I try to balance it with in movement and moving bodies around is, how do you make it more fun? How do you play?
Yeah.
Not work, not it's a massage, I have to work, how many hours do I have to do today? Work. It's like, how is it playful? How is it unique?
Yeah.
How's it individualized to that client?
Which is funny, because that's one of the things that you'll constantly hear about individual customized work. And until you actually really find that space to play, you really don't have that freedom quite often.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in terms of play, but I do want to sort of pull back only in the context of, I don't want people to feel like you have to be playing either. You know what I mean? Like, I think people have different approaches. For instance, I'm a body worker who does not speak. Like, I'll talk to you in the very beginning. I will assess the situation. We'll discuss what's going on. And then I don't like to talk during the work, and that's just how I function. I've seen some of your stuff, and I don't know that it's your private sessions, but I've seen you in your Thai jam, and I've seen other things, and you're conversational with your clients. I've been
different contexts.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
And I've seen people, like, I've worked in other spaces where multiple therapists, multiple rooms, where people were like having full-blown conversations. I know that they're great therapists because I've received work with them, but at the same time, it's like, I can't do that. And it's like knowing that part of who you are. So when you say playful, I'm just saying, like, that may not be you, but it is finding that freedom and joy, I think, is maybe where you're saying playful, that you can then be creative. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, as my work evolved when it was like chronic pain management, you would communicate verbally specifically to get feedback about pressure, comfort levels with the client.
Right.
And there's actually been, in the past few years, I've had issues because part of me still feels like I'm supposed to be completely quiet in session.
Why?
And then I had to think about that. I'm like, well, why? It's different if you're carrying on like a full-blown conversation,
Right.
but a little light, banter as you're working with someone. It's like, if the client, likes it and you like it, then it's just a matter of finding the clients that meld with your practice. Right. Just in the same way that I like receiving a session with someone like you who just allows me to completely drone out.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on 2 points. It's like, one, if that's what the client is looking for, then
Yeah.
we always be trying to find a way to match them, because once you match them, then the work can flow. So I agree with that. But the point for my reason, actually, the reason that I don't speak is because I know who I am as a practitioner. I am a terrible massage therapist if you have me in conversation. I'm terrible. And that's the truth. I mean, I've had clients that like want to talk, and I'm like, I want to give you my best work, so I don't want to talk to you. Because for me, I'm very much about my senses. I'm about like information coming through. And when my mouth is closed, I'm talking through my hands. All the communication is coming through my hands. I mean, that's the reason why I go by hand and temple for my Instagram and for my business. It's because, my hands are how I communicate and how I understand what's going on. I listen to your body and allow that to show me where we should be going, or what you want to do, or what's working, what's not working. And so for me, having verbal dialogue that's not necessary, it just literally throws my work off. And I will tend to be, a terrible therapist in that context. But that goes back to the very beginning, where I'm saying, like, I think it's important for us to be grounded, to know who we are, to allow that creativity to come through, to allow that. And then also allowing, I think that's a really big thing about it. It's like, I don't think that you're special. I don't think that I'm special in that context. I think the problem is that people don't allow themselves to fail. They don't allow themselves to make mistakes and to try, and then just go with what their heart's telling them is what's needed in that work. I think that we can bring those things together.
What does a failure look like in session? Like when you say they don't allow themselves to fail.
Well, it depends on how large it is. I mean, it could be a situation of, working on a particular body and it's not actually, maybe you're trying to work on a trigger point and you can't release it. That could be a failure. Failure could be trying to execute a move, like maybe you're trying to get underneath the scapula and you can't get enough rotation in order to get underneath there, and then they're either hurting the client or or it's just not working.
Yeah.
I think there's that aspect of like not trusting the fact that like things may not go right, but the more that you're working towards that, the more space there is for things to go right. But if you're always literally if you do the same 5 moves because they're perfected, great, except what happens when that body needs a move that's not in those 5?
Yep.
What do you
the classes I teach, when I'm walking students through, when I go through these sequences, I cone these out because students need like a platform to kind of build on. And every time I go through the class, I'm like, you have to learn the sequence and then destroy it. Because you're going to work on someone, when you said you can't get under the scapula, you can't get under the shoulder blade. Not only are all the clients' bodies completely different, but if I had you and 12 other therapists in class, the therapist's bodies, their own range of motion, flexibility, strength is completely different. So they can't even do the same stuff that maybe is in a workbook or in a sequence I wrote. I have to look around the room and go, okay, and go show them another option. And the students always, every time, they're like, whoa, there's more than one way to do it? Right. It's like, yeah, we're just, like, there's 20 ways or more, to do any one thing.
Right. As many people as there are, there's many interpretations of it. And, if anything, that's what I'm hoping that anyone listening to us or watching us would get, that is that, like, it's absolutely viable for you to do the work that you do. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not saying don't study, don't take classes, don't learn, don't practice. But what I am saying is also be willing to step out of your comfort zone and make things happen. You
got to learn to play your instrument.
Yeah.
You got to practice. Yeah.
So Dax said that she wants to take aerial training, arts training. And I think that is a brilliant thing to do. It's amazing what people, like, if you're using your body in that way and you're a body worker, absolutely amazing. Beautiful stuff. So I totally agree with that. Like, love it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question. What do you consider creative?
In session.
In session, or maybe outside of session. Because honestly, the reason why I would say outside of session, because I would tell you that from my work, so many things have been informed by things outside of the room just as much as inside the room. So yeah, it's up to you. But I'm just wondering in terms of your perspective.
I think my real love was mat-based work. And one of the reasons I came to adore mat-based bodywork was it allowed me use of my legs, so mainly my knees and my feet,
Hmm.
as tools to be able to compress, mobilize. Once you added an additional two limbs, the work became much more three-dimensional. I was reducing strain on my hands and my carpals, and the number of potential options for treatment for soft tissue expanded exponentially. My teacher, when she taught me, it was again kind of sequences, and then I fundamentally understood that it wasn't about the sequence. It
Right.
was about, okay, this client is shaped this way, their arm is a certain size. What tool do I have that fits this situation best? One day I'd have low back pain, me myself,
Hmm.
and I'd say, yeah, I feel kind of uncomfortable when I lean over. So I could change things based on having all these tools to say, okay, what's going to work best, not just for the client, but for me in that given session.
Right.
Then beyond that point, you realize that sense of playfulness where occasionally, I'd feel like I didn't quite have the right tool. I wasn't turned the right way. It wasn't the right angle. It wasn't the right leverage, vector of pressure. And then you'd go, what's in my toolbox? What can I use?
Right.
And then you go, wow, wait, can I do that backwards? Like I've always done it this way. Can I do it from the other side? And then without asking the client, I would never go, well, I've never done this before. I'm going to use you as my test subject.
Right. Yeah.
I would confidently, reposition myself and then try something and ask the client, listen, how does this feel right here?
Right.
The client then becomes the teacher. And that was a much better situation to be in because it was increasing the communication. So the creativity came in relationship. Just as much as this conversation you and I are having is going to have its own sort of flow because of the two of us, each session becomes tailored in a creative sense between myself and the client.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, one of the things that I think is really interesting that I used to do when I was working with other therapists is I would basically challenge people like, how do you start? Just as a simple thing, how do you start your massage? Right. And most people would say, oh, I like to start in supine, or I'd start in prone. And I would always say, why? And they're like, well, that's what I always do. And I was like, but why? And it's like, well, that's what I always do. And it's
Mhm.
not really a good answer. And so one of the things that I would always is just like, you want to see how different your work can be? Just start differently. Start in a
Mhm.
whole different spot. I'm not even talking about like any creative moves, learning any new modality. I'm just like, start in a different spot and watch how you will change, how you will adapt, and you'll figure out new ways to work just because you started in a whole different place. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of we can do that's really, really easy to kind of wean ourselves in and move forward without even having to make big grand changes. But
Yeah.
those shifts allow for really great thinking and intuition and creativity to just sort of spark itself with you.
Yeah.
So
How long have you worked as a massage therapist?
licensed 2004, 13 and a half years now, 13 and a half years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
can tell.
yeah.
There's no way, like, I can tell you've worked for a long time just from the philosophical nuance and communication about what you're doing. Yeah.
I appreciate that, but guess what? Actually, this is not saying I'm special, but honestly, I've always had this thought, and then maybe it's more not about the how many years I've been a therapist, but maybe how late I came to massage therapy.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so
Yeah.
I'm thinking that may be part of the issue. I mean, for me, in the very beginning, I went to school to learn what not to do, so then I could throw it all away. Like that's literally what I like. Tell me, tell me the things that I'm going to get wrong that are really dangerous that can hurt somebody, and then
Yeah.
once I knew that, I'm like, okay, all bets are off. I can do whatever I want, and
Yep.
that's always how I've approached body work. It's like I can do whatever I want as long as I am cognizant of the things that can hurt somebody, and a lot of
Yeah.
that came from through touch and experience and working with people. And I was thinking about this today because I knew this was kind of going to be a conversation that was going to flow, and I thought this was really important because I started my career as a massage therapist in a spa, where everyone's always poo-pooing the spa and poo-pooing the corporation and the blah, blah. And I don't even really care in that context. But one of the things that I have to appreciate was that that spa gave me more bodies than I could imagine. And the more bodies I worked on is how I became the therapist I am today. Like you
Yeah.
need bodies to understand how to work with bodies. And until you do that, you know, maybe working at Massage Envy or maybe working for a corporation might be the way to go if you're not able to generate that many people in the beginning. And I just think that was really important because I am a part of massage entrepreneurs, and we often hear conversations that way, and no one actually celebrates the fact that you are getting so much experience that you really get to figure out who you are as a therapist, and then from there decide what you want to do. And I just think that's really important to acknowledge that.
I'm pro capitalism with a small c. I'm pro client choice. I'm pro, therapists making good decisions for themselves. Massage Entrepreneurs was pushing out, trying to get therapists who want to work for themselves to do that. I don't ever criticize, not really, large chains or anything. I think they're great in their own way. They're offering the public something that the public wants. I don't really understand, I don't know, all the complaints, I guess, from other people.
No, I do understand aspects of it. I mean, I've lived it, and that's part of the reason why I left it. So I do understand parts of it. But what I also don't hear, like I said, is I don't hear the celebration of the experience that's available to you in that sense. And I don't hear the celebration of the therapist that, there's plenty of, good apples and bad apples, but there are a lot more good apples that we aren't celebrating. And so, I'm one of those people who actually worked in a spa. And so I just, I don't do it anymore, but at the same time, I feel like, that needs to be acknowledged, that there's a lot of great practitioners there that we're not always acknowledging, because we are talking about often the independent massage therapist, the independent business. And that may not be for everyone, or it may not be for everyone at that particular time. So it was just one of the things that I was like, oh, I get to talk to Robert. I got to bring that up. That's all. So, and it's not faulting you. It's just saying in terms of like people watching this with you are definitely going to be people who are watching Massage Entrepreneurs.
Well, even from a business standpoint, let's say you work at Massage Envy. Massage Envy is the largest employer of massage therapists in the United States. If you work at Massage Envy, what can you learn about business from working at a Massage Envy?
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, it always, for me, it's always, for my massage career, it's always been about not liking somebody or liking a situation, but what can I learn? Like, what can you teach me that's going to make me better? That's what I'm always looking for. Is like, how can I get better at what I do? And it's not about necessarily liking or whatever. It's that's the goal. So,
and that's part of that. And the thing is, when you worked at a spa, you probably learned things that really worked for you. What did you see that you chose not to replicate or not emulate in your practice?
Well, I guess for the biggest point would be discounts. For me, that was a huge, for me, a huge reason why I left was that, there was too many competition based on price. And, even though you had talent and experience, it was always a conflict of price. And so for me, it was kind of like, I'm out. Like at a certain point, it's not worth it.
He learned, do not compete on price. Discount. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was, for me, that was the big thing, in terms of that. But, I also felt like it was also interesting because, you get into situations where, you have 5-10 minutes to assess someone, figure out how to address them, and to really take care of them. And that's the other thing that I think is really important. A lot of people go that spas are like fluff, it's like, oh, fluff and buff. And honestly, fluff and buff is up to the therapist. Like it's up to you to choose whether or not to do therapeutic or effective work. So if people are going in and out of your room and it's not effective, or it's just a fluff and buff, well, that's because you chose as a therapist to present that. For me, it was always about, I don't go around talking pain science or chronic pain, but I was managing real issues. I work with professional dancers. Like, my thing was always about how to be effective. What I was a really big proponent of, and still am, is how do you do effective therapeutic massage that feels and looks good? That's always been my big thing. It's like, so I've always wanted to bring that sort of luxurious aspect of work and then bring in the real like therapeutic aspects and combine those two. That's really what my work has always been about. And I actually got the biggest compliment, which was a big insult about a year ago, or whatever, when I posted my video of my website. I don't know if you've seen that at all.
No, I have. It's excellent. Great video. Yeah.
Like, thank you. So I got the video up, and it was all these really wonderful thoughts, but someone actually put on there, and they literally said, it doesn't look like you're doing anything. Just stick to giving like really good fluffy massages. It was, it was basically like, you're not really effective. Like, I do real science massage. And I was kind of like, at first I was totally pissed, like who wouldn't be? But then I realized, and honestly, I said to myself, I was like, oh my God, that person, although they were insulting me, just gave me the biggest compliment I could ever get. Biggest compliment, because I had now brought my work to such a level that it looked like I wasn't doing anything. It was almost like following the Tao. Like, it was that like doing and not doing. It looked like there was nothing going on. And yet I know, and the person on the table know, that there's so many things going on that, and so I was like, wow, that is a huge compliment. And yes, Rachel, it actually did go viral. I think it's up to like 135,000 views or something. Like, I was, mind blown at actually how many people received it so well. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I never thought of massage as being like, it's either spa or clinic. And it's like, no, it's either or. Like, it's both. Like, even that when they use the word in our industry, when they say fluff and buff, they have almost a derogatory tone to it. Right. But in the end, it really depends on, again, what is the client looking for? Right. It's like, if people cannot relax, we're not going to get anything done. Like, right. We're not going to be able to help tissue soften if they can't relax, whatever that is for that client. And I've never really seen, even though I've worked in spas, the people were coming in, they weren't even necessarily coming in thinking, I'm going to get pain relief. I could tell they were coming in to get a massage. They were coming in to get a nice, relaxing spa experience. And 45 minutes of that hour might have been a nice, deep, Swedish, flowing, some movement. And then in that additional 15 minutes, I was going to address the fact that they said their upper back and neck was bothering them. Mm-hmm. You could figure out that area and work on it. Their preconceived notions were met. But I think we met them where they're at for relaxation and then pushed them forward a little bit and raised their expectation of massage for pain relief as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're kind of touching on something. I don't know if you're seeing this comment, but Jason wrote that the reason there's not much celebration is because people are being overworked and there's a lot of burnout. Why sacrifice your well-being for all the bodies you're working on? And I think there is a portion of that makes sense. It's also a portion of why I left myself. But part of the reason why I left was because I could never do shitty work. For me, it was always about, how do I make this person have the most amazing experience and effectively, address their concern. And so I wasn't burnt out by that. I was actually burnt out because I wasn't getting paid well enough and I couldn't quite give my all and not get paid well enough. And so when that reached the threshold, it was too much this way, I was like, okay, I've got to walk out altogether. But for me, when I took, I guess I'm trying to think if I take an oath. I don't know, New York State. But anyway, for me personally, when I got my license, I took an oath that I was going to do well, by the people I work for or work with. And that was never an option. You always get the best. And so, that's why for me, it's like, I don't see it as a sacrifice. I see it as a necessity in terms of what I do as a practitioner. And I'll explain that reason why, because even further is that the only thing I had when I walked away from the spa is my reputation. That's the only thing you ever have anywhere is your reputation. So when I wanted to build a practice outside of the spa, the only thing I could take with me was literally the name and the fact that you always got great work with me. So that's the reason why you do great work wherever you are, because the only thing you have is your reputation as a practitioner. So my thought.
There's so many factors to it when I was devising now what I call Reboot. I worked at a chiropractor's office, and the insurance billing was set up in such a way that most people, they had 30 minutes or an hour, 30 minutes or an hour, 30 minutes or an hour. And there were so many issues that I worked on where I just wish I had a little more time. And in my private practice, I was doing 2 hour sessions. I didn't even offer an hour. It was 2 hours or not at all. And from that vantage point, it became this juxtaposition where it was like this started to feel more like a drive-through. It doesn't mean that the work wasn't nourishing. It just means that the kind of intimacy, the kind of connection I really wanted with the clients was more in this realm with a 2 hour session.
And and it's interesting because this is something that I think I've heard you talk about this, and I know that this eventually leads to your 3 hour, which sounds absolutely amazing. So when I get to Texas, I will. Um, but I have to. But
Well, that's
I also,
right, because I can't come to New York.
yeah, but I have to challenge this slightly because I've always had this, and maybe you push back and tell me I'm wrong, but I've always felt like if you can deliver effective work, now obviously you're not going to get an entire body in 30 minutes, but if you can do really effective work in 30 minutes, you have not only won a client for life, but you have so much more access that 60 minutes is even that much more incredible. 90 minutes, 2 hours. But I feel like it's like that is like if more of us can hone into that 30 minutes of being excellent,
Yeah.
and everything else opens up to us, that even that time expands, and there isn't even that need for more time. It doesn't say
Yeah.
it's not great to have that luxury. And it's watching your stuff clearly, you understand what I'm kind of saying. But I think that some people miss that they're just so focused on how much time do I have versus how effective can I be in the time I have. How
Mhm.
much can I do that really will address what's going on, and then from there watch it explode. So I want to throw that out because not everyone's going to be able to jump to a 3 hour mat-based work, but people have access to that creativity in the space they're in right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's not a question of either or. And it's not really about getting students to absolutely replicate doing 3 hour sessions if they don't want to. What I am trying to do is maintain a degree of quality control over the brand. But when it comes to like the time massage jam, so when people come to the time massage jam, I might work on you 5 minutes, I might work on you 20 minutes, I might work on you 2 hours. Totally different context. The time massage jam was kind of like my version of chair massage. It was
Right.
the sampler that allowed somebody to get a little bit of work and figure out whether they wanted to continue working with me or working with some of the other therapists at the jam.
Gotcha.
The real question was as an artist, I guess, as a body worker, you know, we could choose, did we want to use oil? Did we want to use a canvas? Did we want to be Jackson Pollock and fling the paint? Did we want to sculpt? Did we want to, work in mixed medium? And the thing is, it's all making art, but you got to choose the sort of palette you worked with. And for me, understanding that you actually had a choice in private practice, you could craft and shape Ben Brown. And when you thought about your potential customers, you as a sole practitioner, you could create your own business, create your own art form, and address your clients in the way that you wanted to. Because it's like Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapel, but he also painted, right? So he did sculpture, I think it was. But the thing is, it's like, what would Michelangelo do if he has sole choice? He wants to make art. What does he want to do? That's really what I'm trying to get therapists to grasp and then build their real business. Because, we have massage envy. We have cookie cutter massage everywhere. But, what is the art that Ben Brown creates?
Right. And I think we're getting a little too large, just slightly. Because, no, and it's not bad. I think it's good. I mean, I think maybe this means you and I can have another conversation. I would love to, but I want to bring it back to the room only because I became, if you want to talk about the art of Ben Brown, my massage started in a practice that was owned by somebody else. Like I've always felt, and I, would always talk about this, that your room is your business. If you work for a spa, that room is your business. You are developing a clientele. You are bringing in repeat clients. You are creating a business. And so if you look at it and take pride in your business, in your room, your 5x7 or whatever it is, if you craft in there, when you step out, you're just extending that business. You're just opening up a larger space. But it starts in that one room. Robert Gardner started in one room. Like you started questioning and doing and creating way back in the spa. And then eventually that wasn't the model that was going to work for you. And you took it out. I mean, at least that's the way I'm perceiving or pushing this conversation, is that, we all have that opportunity right where we are. That's not, I guess, it's like, and then what do you want to do with it? Where do you want to go with it? How do you want to make it? How do you want to change it? But that creativity, that experience is there for you right where you are now. You don't have to like do anything more or be more or bigger. You just have to own it. Like step into who you are and be it,
Yeah.
And that's, it's interesting because like for like the last 3 months now, I've been listening to the Tao, Lao Tzu, and just listening to and absorbing. And it's like, I keep going back to this thought of just be water, just be water. Find that little space, move into it, even in terms of like my work or how I move, it's just like, just find the space. Because water is, though it's like, it doesn't have form. It takes the form of whatever's around it. But at the same time, it overruns and corrodes and shapes and changes things. Like it's so powerful. And if we think of our work as water and how, like, if you're addressing a body that's really, really tight, it doesn't make sense to pound into it anymore, right? I mean, what you want to do,
Compress.
compress. Right. What you want to do is you want to shape it. You want to find that soft edge. You want to find that spot where you can work. That's where different tools come in. That's where understanding. That's where listening to the person's body. That's where a different technique, but it does require you to have a certain mindset that you are not rigid and that you are able to move and be fluid. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's like, what happens when what happens when you hit the end? Like you've been taught and you have a bunch of tools, and then you're in session and you realize I'm out. I don't have anything left. And I went, create a new tool. Yeah.
Exactly. Create a new tool, figure out a new move, position the body in a different way, start in another, direction, give yourself space, stop. That's the other thing that I think is really important in terms of that. It's like, it's okay to stop. Like people feel like you constantly have to be moving, you constantly have to be working. Like stop, give it a moment. Like, if you can be still, wait, the inspiration will come. Just hold the moment, right? I'm not talking about like walk away or just, be very much with that client, be in that room, be on that body, but take a moment and pause. There's nothing wrong with that. Allow it to come to you. Allow that new tool to walk in and literally tell you, okay, try this, and then go for it.
Yeah. Harnessing intuition. Again, pain science, right? Robert starts talking about intuition. I think people make a lot of verbal, a lot of noise about intuition and what intuition is. But in the end, intuition is less about thinking and more about feeling. And,
yes.
Have you worked on a client, for instance, where you knew you could use two different tools, but you didn't think one was better than the other? You felt this one was going to work better. It's like students in class, they get this stuff and they're thinking. And I'm like, stop. Feel what feels good to you. And they're like, well, this feels okay. And I'm like, well, how does it feel to the client? And they're like, it feels great. And it's like, good, so do that.
And Rachel just said that she said that intuition has a place in pain science. And I mean, for me, I don't think there's difference. I think part of intuition comes from experience, and it comes from study, and it comes from understanding, you know, and I think there's a place for intuition. I think there's a place for creativity and inspiration in all aspects. In all aspects, it has nothing to do with science, and has nothing to do with mysticism. It has to do with understanding and understanding yourself, and then working from there.
Well, again, it's like paint science, and they come in and there's like the Sacred Heart of Jesus, a little Catholic icon on my wall, and they're like, "Man, what's going on in here?"
Yeah. Well. Yeah. No, I was just thinking, because I'm looking at, I pulled out stuff just in case we're going, and one of the things that for me has been very inspiring is I don't know if have you ever read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic?
What is it again?
Elizabeth Gilbert. I pulled the book out because I wanted to. Big Magic.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I don't know it offhand.
Yeah, great book. She's the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh,
Julia
okay.
Roberts movie. Blah blah blah. But it's a really amazing book because a lot of things that she's writing about being a writer or being a creative. And I think for me, I've always looked at massage therapy as a craft, as an art form, as something that's an expression that that's what we do. I'm not a dancer, I'm a body worker, and that's how I express myself. That's how I'm creative. And this may not be for everyone and every body worker in the world, so I'm not saying that everyone is, but I am saying that what we do is a craft. And for me, reading this book was really wonderful because there's a lot of things it talks about, literally, that you don't need permission to be creative. You don't need permission to go off protocol. You don't need permission to try new things in your work. One of the things that also stood out to me, which I thought was really amazing, was that literally ideas come and go. Like you get inspired to do something, and maybe you're afraid to do it. And then you find out a month later that somebody else is doing this thing, or someone else is using that technique that you like. I thought of that, but it's but you didn't do it. Right? You didn't do it. So that idea is going to go to somebody else. Literally, if you don't actually use that idea is going to move on to find someone else that's going to do it. And I love that because it was one of those things that reminded me. And I think that's part of why you're starting to see my presence around the internet, is because, I was like, there are all these people that are doing what I want to be doing. I want people to understand my impression of bodywork. I want to see people come together, which is why this hashtag came in. The hashtag campaign is about, how do we really show who we are as massage therapists, rather than letting everybody else define us and then being pissed off because that's not who I am. That's not what I do. That's not how I work. And it's that's what this was all about. It was literally about, how do we elevate who we are as individuals and yet work collectively rather than fighting,
Yeah.
And,
The whole thing with Facebook Live and the whole thing with video production is, Knives Monroe, the video guy I work with, he's like, all I do is push the red button, man. And the thing is, all the therapist has to do, if they're frustrated with people don't understand what they do, is take out their phone and teach people what they do.
No, and I've heard you say that, and honestly, that was, like I said earlier, in terms of following, that was one of the things that I was like, okay, I want to be doing that. I don't necessarily agree with everything Robert says, but Robert's right about that. If I don't agree with him, then I need to talk my message, because no one's going to know that. So, no, and it's cool. I mean, I think that's really important in terms of that and how that works. So, and then the other thing that I thought was really interesting, sorry, in this book, because I just wrote a couple of notes for myself, was that, and I think it's important, so I want people to hear it, is that people should be having affairs with their creativity. If you don't feel if you're not feeling inspired in your work, you're not inspired as a body worker, as a massage therapist, then go have an affair with that idea. Go find things that get you excited about being a body worker. Do things that make you want to sneak off and read a book, or sneak off and take a class, or practice on somebody else. I can't tell you, and Scott talks about this, Scott Lindquist, which I don't know if he's still here, but he was here earlier, and I meant to say, hey, Scott, and Danielle, my friend Danielle, which I appreciate, but Scott talks about the idea of people actually trading, and giving work away and learning from each other so that you can build a practice in a business. And it's so important because so many people are so I want to get paid. And guess what? I want to get paid too. But the only way I got all this skill was because I gave away a a shit ton of work in the beginning. And I still do. I still give away a lot of work, you know, like I want to keep growing, you know, like I want to keep getting better at it, you know, and it's like, so I give away work, you know, that's just my own personal take on it, you know, but the reason that I do it is because I want to get better, or I want to get my name out, or I want to network, you know, there are reasons behind it, but at the same time, it is also about growing my craft and getting better as a massage every day.
The Thai Massage Jam and the way that the Thai Massage Jam functions is a really interesting thing that you'd have to experience. But because people are coming in, they're not paying for massage. We just use a little bit of money to pay for the rent on the space. What it does is it creates a free, open forum bodywork event that allows us to all create, play, explore. And the thing is, if I work on you, you're not a client. I can try stuff I've not done before. We can interact and play and wind up doing acro yoga or whatever. So it took the pressure off of having to perform a massage. Now you could experiment. It became like a laboratory. You know, I could watch people who didn't know what they were doing and go, ooh, hey, that looks really good. I'm going to try that. Because they have beginner's mind. We get trapped in thinking we know what we're doing.
No, I think that's a huge point, is that there's another space right there in terms of how do you get more creativity, is watching other people work, experiencing their work, thing where people will literally, like you said, just be creative, be like, oh, I want to do this. And it's like, even though like you've been taught not to do that, but the person's like, oh, I want to do that. And they do it. And then you can find ways around it to make it safe, or to get around the things that you know shouldn't work and make it happen. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's where I learned a lot of my stuff, was literally from also getting, you know, terrible massages. You know, like literally I got like, you know, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Or, oh, I see where this person was trying to go. How can I fix that? How can I perfect what they were doing? You know, I honor that inspiration that they were trying. Okay, but how do we make that work? You know, so space there.
Yeah. When therapists would talk about trading work, I sometimes see this. The therapists have trouble organizing a day and time to get together and trade work. The Thai Massage Jam happened at the same day and time every week. And maybe you didn't get a full session, but maybe you were tired that day. It's completely legitimate. Therapists will come in and say, listen, I work 6 hours a day. I'm toast. I cannot do any work, but you can work on me. And people will pass them around for 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, people wanted to, they could, you know, borrow that model and create their own. It doesn't have to
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be Thai. It just needs some body work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so much of even the massage entrepreneurs group, again, it's not just trying to get people to do exactly what I'm doing. It's trying to get them to create their own practices and innovate in their own ways and be entrepreneurs. Like, you know, when you said you have an idea and somebody else, you know, did something with it. You know, it's that same thing. It's like there's tons of ideas floating around. We don't own ideas.
Right.
But what can you actually create out of it and put energy towards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just answering Rachel about, yeah, because I totally believe in paying for work too, but I know often therapists will say I can't afford it, and then it's like there are ways around it. But absolutely, paying for work is always nice, because then you get the full experience, you get to walk away.
Yeah.
So that's always a great thing.
Yeah, if you're a massage therapist and you're around me and you say massage, if you live in Austin, if you say massage is expensive or education is expensive, I'm like, I don't talk to you anymore. It's like my subscription service is $7 a month and Thai Massage Jam costs $5. Like, no, you have no excuse anymore. Not when it comes to me. Yeah.
Cool.
So creativity in session, do we want to keep talking about that specifically?
I don't know. Do you have a question? I mean, I think there's lots of ways to go with it. I mean, I'm working on something with a therapist out of Canada. We're actually putting together a workshop about literally this sort of aspect, and
Sure.
we're working on like, rhythm and tempo and flow and, creating, how do you craft a session, finding ways to work with people. I did something when I was working at the spa where I literally created a massage that was based on working with the music. Finding, creativity and expression and inspiration using actual music that would it was not choreographed, but it was the context of where the music would inform the work. It would inform the movement and how you moved or what you did. And, the reason why it wasn't choreographed was literally what you were talking about earlier, is that, you're going to have different clients. You're going to have different body sizes. And so if you have a choreographed thing, you're not going to be able to execute based on the client that you're working on. Or, maybe it's a day that you're not functioning as well as you can, or something's wrong, or you're hurting your hand, or you cut yourself, making steak last night, whatever that thing is, so how is that going to change the work? And so it was really designed so that people could be really inspirational and creative in the moment based on the music. So the music was really kind of informing you and causing you to want to move, and how do you want to move? And then from there, executing, and it was kind of cool because we did classical music, which obviously is always accessible, but we did some world, and we did electronic, like dance music, and we also did like rock and roll, like Jane's Addiction, Aerosmith, Pearl Jam, like really like full on body work. And so, I think there are lots of different ways. I mean, that's just one example, but that's something that I'm working with someone else to do. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening in terms of like, how do you get more inspired in your work? How do you find ways to do it? And I think it can be, like I said, just as simple as, hey, start a different way today. Just start working a different way, a different position. Go from there. Trust yourself. Yeah.
So, creativity in session. I'll ask you real quick. What are two albums or songs or artists that you play in session music?
Well, that's a lot. Seriously, and I'm not blowing smoke. That's really a lot.
Two favorite. You could have a wide variety.
No, I will. No, I'm going to choose something that's one of my old ones that I absolutely love, and I've stopped using. But Anwar Brahim, Persian, which actually, what is Persian now? Sorry, because there's no Persian. I always say Persian because I got fixated.
Iran.
Yeah. Anyway, but Anwar Brahim, Le Pas de Chat Noir. I'll write it down here for people. That is absolutely one of my most favorite albums of all times for doing work. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm actually right now there's a couple. I'm a huge fan of Chad Lawson. He has a really great thing on Bach variations. If you want to go strictly classical, go with the Glenn Gould. He also does Bach variations, which is really wonderful. If you want to do world, what else? You can actually, a great soundtrack is Queen Margot, which is really, really, it will actually pull you in lots of different directions, which is really cool. Rachel just put up Azam Ali, which is also beautiful. Lambert is very cool right now. If you want to check out Lambert's, are very cool. He does this sort of like neophyte classical, just kind of out there. Lyrics. Let's see, lyrics. See, there's so much music. Seriously, like that's my.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine.
No.
But
cool,
I'm glad. Okay, so I got so burnt out on spa music. It's really exciting for me to hear you mention specific artists, specific albums. Yeah.
No. Okay. So just because you're opening up a gateway, I actually create literally every month a playlist. I don't know if you've even seen that, but I create a playlist of music that I give away for free. And I'll throw a link up there on that too. But I actually program music for spas and other businesses. I've been doing it for years. I still like doing it. I personally, I don't like whales. I don't like flutes, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful sense, because I actually do like them, but just that associated that's what it has to be. Once you tell me that's what it has to be, then you sort of lose me. And then I'm like, out. But I think there's a place for it. I think it's cool. It's just I also think there's so much more you can do. And because there's so much creative music out there, it's like, why not? I mean, obviously if you have a guest who doesn't like lyrics, then that's not for you, or a guest who doesn't like this. But if they're open, and most people are open to the experience, I think you should use it. I think that's one way. In terms of branding, you can actually start to craft, like, here's a great thing that you can do is literally you make your own playlists and then you give them to your clients. You put them on your business card and you're like, hey, here's a link to my playlist. And that can create ways for people to sort of find the gateway to you. And then they share it with their friends and then they come back to you. So there's lots of really cool things you can do. We can talking about that kind of stuff too. But there's just a lot of cool stuff. And I think that's what I mean by like, you know, you can open up yourself to a lot of aspects and bring that into your work. And that's the thing that keeps you going. That's why it's not a sacrifice to be a body worker. That's why it's pretty amazing what we do. That's why it needs to be celebrated. That's why you need to join my hashtag campaign and tell your story so people understand that, hey, you are very different from me and you're twice as cool as me. So
yeah, when it comes to albums, I'm very focused on, I like album oriented music. It's not that I don't like singles and mixtapes and whatever, but I do like album oriented music. And if you find Night Song by, I think it's Michael Brook and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. It's modern urban beats with Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan singing Qawwali. It's awesome. Really, really great. I would tell therapists Kaya by Bob Marley, that album. Kaya is excellent. I really like Morning Phase by Beck. If you can find anything by Chet Faker. Chet Faker has a couple of really great albums I play in session. And then I also occasionally pull out Krishna Das, something like Door of Faith. I really like those albums, and they span like some sort of different feelings. Some of them are a little bit more upbeat. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I've also been loving, tightening this one down. Bat for Lashes, I've been loving her lately.
Yeah.
So. Cool. And actually, here's one. You asked me two favorites. I just thought of one that, and this one is really, this is Tibetan nun chanting, which is absolutely beautiful. Her name is Ani Choing Droma. Ani Choing Droma. She did 2 albums, which are absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So, let's put it out there. So. Yeah, we should have a session just about music, just about massage music. Really?
And it depends too on the mood. Because my sessions are so long, one of the things I figured out is I've worked with people who had a sort of set playlist, they never go change it. I have a tendency, I'll work on someone and play Beck's Morning Phase. When the album ends, I get up and go to the phone and I pick the album based on what's going on in session and what I think is about to go on, which allows me to like change the flow, midway. That works for me. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you're doing such a long session that there's going to be changes, ebbs and flows in that sort of kind of space. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I believe that there's a lot of space in terms of music and sound, and that people can move through many different areas in that space. So really, it's a matter of you. And one of the things I was going to say, though, honestly, in terms of how we choose music and what we do as far as creating creativity in our session, I think that it goes back to the practitioner again. I think you set the tone, you make it happen, you make it work or not work. Like if you're not, it doesn't mean that you should be selfish in your music choices, but meaning that like if you are listening to something and you're recognizing that it's not resonating with your client, then it's your responsibility to make that change so that it does work for them. Like, okay, so maybe you find, when you get to the foot, you can reach your phone and you can change the music, or you can, or take a moment and redrape them and just, go ahead and just make a real clean break and do it. But, honoring what's happening and paying attention is one of those things that I think is really important that we often, discount. I remember I had a massage once and the person was like, I can't leave the body, but I could feel them like fumbling for cream or they couldn't get it together. And I'm like, just stop touching me and get what you need and come back and work.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do and come back and work. So, I mean, I think that's one of those things. It's like really just understanding the situation and just owning it. Like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Yeah. So, cool. This conversation took many different turns.
Oh, they always do, always do. So I used to reference it as being an interview, and I've learned over time I kind of like the notion of it being a discussion more than a very specific interview. I feel like there's an exchange that happens when we have a general topic of discussion, but we allow the conversation to flow whatever we find interesting at that time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. For me, I appreciate that space because it does, it allows space, the fact that there is an opportunity for it to just be what it is. And so
yeah,
for me, it's much more comfortable. I have my thoughts and then we're able to kind of go with it. So very cool. Yeah. It's been an hour.
Already?
Already.
So how about this? We're nearing, the end. Usually an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. If people want to contact you, do you prefer that they follow you on Instagram, Facebook, your website?
I will put all the above in there. If you're really looking for me, the easiest thing to find me right now, because I do put a lot of emphasis, especially with this hashtag campaign going on, is my Instagram, which is HND_TMPL. That's the way I want people to kind of find out what's going on right now. My website is www.handandtemple.com. And if you're on Facebook, you could find me at, it's kind of weird, Facebook required me to put, but anyway, you can find me at the Ben Brown LMT. So that's where I'm at on Facebook.
Cool.
Yeah. That's it for me. Oh wait. Oh, sorry. James wants to ask a question. I think he wants to come on live. So I think.
Okay. So here's the thing. I didn't do it earlier because I was afraid of losing you. So here's what we'll go ahead and do. If I manage to lose either of us, we'll just call it a night. But we'll see if I can bring James on and then let him ask a question. So let me see this real quick. James, can you request on your end to see if I can just add you that way?
I didn't know you can actually add 3 people. Cool.
And on my end, it looks like it's not allowing me to, and I'm not sure why. Let me see real quick.
Do you need me to leave?
No, I don't think so, but we're gonna see what happens. And I think I just sent him a request, so we're gonna see.
Okay. While we're talking,
because I haven't played with that function on Facebook Live yet.
What's the other thing? Cool. I'm just going to look and see if there are other questions that other people may have asked. Erica, thank you for watching. I totally appreciate it.
Yeah. If any of you catch this after the live broadcast and you have questions for Ben or I, please just write down below. We'll be happy to chat with you and answer those.
Hey, Casey. I have to say hi to my friends. My friends are showing up, so I appreciate that. Yeah. And I saw Damien was on earlier, which is very cool. Let's see if we missed any questions. All right, so I will steal a moment since there's silence because Robert was gracious enough to let me talk about the hashtag campaign. If you people have questions or any concerns, we're launching January 29th, massage therapists literally from all around the world. We have people in the UK, Brazil, Canada, Singapore, of course, the United States, and Australia. They're all over, and everyone is going to be on Instagram January 29th for 10 days, basically telling their stories about who they are, what they do, why they practice. It's going to be very cool. So James asked if you can see him.
So James, I invited you. It's there, but for whatever reason, it's not allowing me to manually add you. So we're going to see. Hold on. We'll see if this works. No, for some reason, James, I can't figure out why it's not allowing me to approve it. So we do the best we can. But James, you can also, before we leave, you can at least write it in and type it in so we can respond that way.
Someone's asking for a link to the music. I'm going to put that up there if you want. Here's
Yeah.
link for music. I don't have a time manual.
Oh yeah, I don't even. Yeah, if you guys want my stuff, I'm everywhere. Just just go into Google. You know, the free workbooks on my website. All my social media is active. I have people who regularly write me on. They'll video message me on Snapchat or Instagram. I respond to all that stuff as soon as I can. But you can find me, find the free time massage workbook. The only thing, the subscription service, if you go to the store on my website, there's a big like purple link that'll lead you over to Teachable so you can get on the subscription service. Oh, Ben, let me ask you about that since we're live at the moment. How have you found the subscription service and the overall setup for that?
It's good. It's good.
Good.
I mean, I like this. Information's easy. Your group is great. I mean, the fact that you do live classes and you allow people to come, hey, I want to learn this. I want to bring this to, I want to bring this to my practice. I think, honestly, I think it's good that I'm constantly learning. I'm always looking for stuff, and I feel like you've been a great resource in that sense. So
good.
I think
good. Yeah, it was just to get basic, because sometimes even in the group, there's like a little over 100 subscribers. Sometimes people lurk, they don't really comment. So to be able to get audio-visual feedback about whether it's an effective way for you to pick up information or not is valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I learned from video. I mean, I also like hands-on. I think all platforms are viable. It's really a matter of you and choice, and then it does come down to actually doing the work. Like for me, it's always about me doing the work. So like watching someone, but then actually doing it is where the real learning for me comes in, is actually doing it. So
yeah.
Wanda, the link is on this. I posted it a moment ago. It's massagemusicsolutions.com, but it is up. It's in one of the comments here because Erica asked a moment ago. Ben, what digital marketing skill do you recommend an LMT learn to create their message? Copywriting, video editing, or etc. Well, I think it actually depends on what platform the therapist is going to use. I'm kind of bouncing around trying to find my niche and playing with different things. I think it's really up to you. If you're someone who's going to, be YouTube, then clearly it's going to be video editing and video recording. And that actually you don't even have to do because you can hire someone out. But if you can't afford it, then yes, you'll probably have to learn it yourself. If you're going to be on Facebook, I think it's probably a little more copy versus visuals, but I do think that they both play a part. And if it's Instagram, I think it's definitely visuals. Instagram is a visual platform. If you want to be effective, you have to first stop and get people's attention, and I think one of the big things I see is that often with massage, there's two things that happen. We often are just like buy, like buy a service, which isn't bad in and of itself, except then the message doesn't get delivered because they've already heard that message. So that's the problem. And then the other aspect is that I often think that the visuals are often too cluttered, that it's not really appealing to people, at a first glance. Like if you're looking at, wonderful mountains and then you're looking at like buy, which one are you going to actually stop on? Which one is going to attract your attention and make you go, ooh. So, I think it kind of depends on what platform you're at. The one thing I would say that's important is that you do have great visuals, that you do have good copy, and then you do have a message that you're delivering to people. So it's not even that it's well crafted, but it's also like a call to action, something that has them do something that has them engage with you, that has them, like that you're getting real, interaction with people. I mean, that's the thing, that these are all social platforms, which is why Facebook is really pushing video, because it's real engagement. Like, Robert and I have had a conversation now for the last hour and 75 minutes. And there have been wonderful comments from all you people watching and having thoughts and saying yes and no, and I like this and show me that and teach, and that's what Facebook's looking for. So the thing is, like, how do we as body workers bring that out. And that's one of the things, like I said, this hashtag campaign is about. It is about literally telling your story, like sharing your message, who you are, what you do. You drink beer when you do an interview? Or, do you do CrossFit? Like what, what is, what is it like? And it's
stories,
fine.
the message, Instagram stories, Facebook is its stories, Twitter live, like video telling stories, like thinking about, and fundamentally this is it, like what's the story that Ben Brown tells clients? I can tell you kind of what I think my story is very rapidly towards clients. What's the quick story you tell your target market, Ben?
My target, I think my messaging really right now is more about, you have a body that's absolutely amazing and you need to enjoy it. That's really what it is. And so, and then if it's like, hey, I'm in pain, I can't enjoy my body. Well, guess what? That's what I do. Oh, I want to, get out with my kids more. Okay, guess what? That's what I do. But I lead people into understanding that, you have an amazing body, and that's stolen. Literally, I stole that message, I will tell you, from my accountability partner, because we've been talking back and forth about these things. And she, she teaches anatomy, and she's always got some really great tips. But, it's definitely a portion of how things is. It's like, we don't celebrate ourselves. We don't celebrate our bodies enough and how amazing they are. And so maybe I'm not as pretty as you are, or maybe I'm not as whatever, but you have an amazing body. And so what are you going to do with it? How are you going to make it function? How are you going to keep it in good health? That's what we do as body workers. We give people opportunities to have better lives and better experiences. Tell your story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
For me, it's always, I was 22, I was hit by a drunk driver, I had horrible chronic pain. And I learned how to work on myself in the process of learning how to help other people. And I can help you work on yourself, and I can help you find a therapist who's going to help you work on your quality of life. Pain-free.
Yeah.
Stories. So, good for tonight? We're going to do this again soon?
Yeah, we'll let the audience decide. But yeah, I'm totally open. Yeah, I'm open to have a conversation.
So as we do this, I would love to do another one with you. We can even like niche it down to specific topics. If you have stuff that you're interested in, I can improvise really easily. So just let me know what you're interested in. I'd love to do another one of these again in the future.
Thank you. I totally appreciate it. It was wonderful. Thanks, Robert. So
cool. Oh, you're welcome. Listen, you have a great night, and to all of you at home, please follow Ben. I think he's going to have links in the comments, so you can follow him on his website, his Instagram, and you can also find me from my website. I'm all over social media. Just look me up on Google. If you have questions, just write down below. Also, if you're a massage therapist and you enjoyed this conversation, if you want to like and share this on some Facebook group, something like that, feel free to. Thank you so much, Ben, and you have a great night.
Cheers.
Appreciate you. Bye.
Bye.